Once upon a time, there was a quiet elementary school located in the middle of a small town, and the forgotten classroom of this school was the 5C grade. The students of the class were usually ordinary children, but this year something was different. The new teacher of the class was Mrs. Margaret, and she had a mysterious past. Mrs. Margaret had created a strange mood from her first day. The students knew very little about him, and some claimed that he was connected to a mysterious incident that happened at another school. In the past, however, everyone wanted to share a terrible truth learned in those days. One night, the 5C class stayed at school late. The students were working on a project, and Mrs. Margaret was helping them. Suddenly, the lights went out. The classroom was filled with a dark silence. The students panicked, but then a light source started to come on in a corner of the room. By the light reflected on the walls, they became aware of strange symbols on the walls. The symbols were like a story telling about the past of Mrs. Margaret. It seemed to be part of a creepy ritual. This ritual had caused a student to disappear and still wander around as a ghost trapped in the walls of the school. The students' fear increased because the light source had disappeared and Lady Margaret's voice was coming from the wall. The ghost student began to tell the story, and the room filled with a cold breath. The students watched in horror, but they had to find a way out. With the narration of Mrs. Margaret, the room was filled with an increasingly eerie atmosphere. The story of the ghost student was about his death and how this terrible ritual was performed. The students were staring at each other and listening in fear. While looking at their rows, they began to think carefully about the symbols that appeared on the wall. Perhaps these symbols contained the solution of the ritual. A student plucked up courage and dared to ask what the symbols meant. The ghost of Lady Margaret was eager to help them solve the mystery of the symbols. After many hours of research, the students managed to decipher the meaning of the symbols. These symbols signaled how the ritual could be reversed, but in order to stop this ritual, students had to take a bold step. As the night progressed, the students began to come up with a plan to stop the ritual. When the moment came when they decided, they bravely took action and reversed the ritual. There was an explosion inside the room, and the ghost student was now free. However, the mysterious past of Mrs. Margaret had not been fully clarified. Finally, Class 5C came to light again, and this mysterious event was added to the unforgettable memories of the class deck. The ghost of Mrs. Margaret had now left the school, but the experiences she had had for the pupils of this class lasted in an unforgettable manner. Greenwood Middle School is a quiet school in a small town, built on the site of the old Greenwood Hospital, which was abandoned many years ago. Rumors were circulating among the students that the school was cursed by the ghosts of the decrepit hospital building, but no one knew the truth. One day, 3 close friends, Emily, Alice, and Michael, started preparing for the school's end-of-year party. The party lasted until the late hours of the night, and at the end there were only 3 of them left. The corridors were dark and silent. The cold of the old hospital made them shiver. Suddenly, The friends noticed a shadow stretching across the hallway. Their eyes grew big with fear, and they started shaking. The shadows were approaching, but they could see nothing. Together with a silent scream, the figure of an old nurse appeared in the hallway. The nurse carried a lamp in her hand, and the flickering light illuminated her face threateningly. The friends started to run away by stepping backwards, but the corridor was narrowing, as if they wanted to trap them in it. The figure of the nurse was slowly approaching. Despite the fearful screams of the three friends, Emily, Alice, and Michael looked for an escape route, but no door was opening. As the figure of the nurse approached, she was smiling even more creepily. Eventually, the friends got stuck in a room, and the door was locked behind them. In the room, there was a rusty patient bed from the old hospital period and antique surgical instruments. They felt that the air was getting colder and colder. They looked around in fear, and an old mirror on the wall caught their attention. When they looked in the mirror, they saw the figure of the nurse who was squeezing them instead of the reflection. The figure of the nurse seemed to stretch out her hands through the mirror, and the cries of the three friends were echoed. No one could see or hear Emily, Alice, and Michael that night. There was no sign of the old hospital section of the school. The three friends had disappeared forever in the quiet corridors of that school. However, the events made that night unforgettable, and the story of quiet hallways became a legend among every student at the school. Maintaining the tranquility of the town, Meadowbrook Elementary School operated in an old building that seemed isolated from the modern world. However, this school was hiding a mysterious secret. Every year, a certain student disappeared. Here were three students determined to investigate the secret behind these disappearances: Mark, Olivia, and Ethan. Mark, Olivia, and Ethan decided to go over these strange disappearances. First, they tracked down the last student who disappeared. Their research led them to an old and abandoned library. This library was located in the most remote corner of the school and had not been used for years. The library was full of dusty shelves, but he pointed out an old diary found in one corner. The pages of the diary deciphered the fine line between dreams and reality. This diary was recording the last dreams and strange experiences of the missing student. As Mark, Olivia, and Ethan looked through the diary, they realized that a strange event had broken out, and this event was repeated at the same time every year. This event was the creation of a kind of portal through which students' dreams interact with the real world. Three friends decided to become dream hunters using this portal. They tracked down the missing student and found themselves in the complex and dangerous world of dreams. Inside the dreams, there was a dark and cruel being, the Dream Eater. The Dream Eater was wandering around in dreams and eating people's dreams, cutting them off from the real world. Mark, Olivia, and Ethan went after this creature and made dangerous journeys in dreams to catch it. However, the Dream Eater noticed them, and the chase began in the dream world. They got lost in dreams, in a maze where time slid meaninglessly, and were hunted down one by one by the Dream Eater. Eventually, Mark, Olivia, and Ethan fell into the clutches of the Dream Eater and were unable to return to the real world. They disappeared and left no trace. Meadowbrook Elementary School never opened the door of its old building again after this disappearance, but a story formed that circulated from tongue to tongue throughout the town. Dream hunters. And this story has made the dark secret of Meadowbrook even more mysterious and creepy.